dari Indonesia, ada dari Myanmar, Filipina, lalu kemudian dari Thailand, dari Italia, dari Perancis, ya, dari Belanda juga. Jadi itulah mengapa kita nanti akan menggunakan bahasa Inggris.
Oh, bahasa Inggris ya?
Ya. Kalau PowerPoint-nya masih dalam bahasa Indonesia tidak apa-apa, mungkin, tapi yang penting nanti dijelaskan dalam bahasa Inggris. Apakah tidak apa-apa?
Ya, udah. Oke.
Ya. Sekarang lagi musim panas ya di sana, atau sudah musim gugur?
Nah, ini musim gugur.
Wah.
Belum. Ya, transisi ke musim gugur.
Oh, oke. Biasanya lagi indah-indahnya justru ya kalau mau ke musim gugur itu, dan
Ya,
kalau
baru
sudah musim
Oktober.
gugur. Gitu. Saya tidak tahu apakah Pak Okamoto membaca novel juga. Haruki Murakami itu sangat terkenal ya. Dia dari Kyoto kalau salah lahirnya itu.
Tokyo. Ya. Selalu jadi rumor bahwa dia akan dapat hadiah Nobel, tapi
Gagal terus ya.
dapat.
Nggak dapat, hanya ini saja. Saya kebetulan banyak membaca tulisan-tulisannya Haruki, itu sangat terkenal dia di sini.
Ya. Ada versi bahasa Indonesia juga.
Ya, ada banyak yang diterjemahkan dalam bahasa Indonesia, tapi saya banyak baca yang bahasa Inggrisnya. Pak Gulam, mungkin kita bisa mulai kali ya. 1 menit lagi, biar pas jam 3:05. Moderatornya nanti Pak Gulam, Pak Masaki. Jadi perkenalkan, ini kolega saya, Pak Zunanus Bulamanar dari Universitas Diponegoro, nanti akan memandu diskusi. Tapi saya nanti akan memberikan perkenalan sedikit dan juga menerangkan tentang apa pertemuan sore ini, kira-kira begitu. Silahkan Pak Gulam, sudah jam.
Oke.
Sebentar. Ini Pak Masakinya lagi, Pak Okamotonya lagi meninggalkan screen. Nanti kalau sudah ada di screen lagi.
Apa ini, berapa menit ya?
Nanti biasanya presentasi 20-30 menit ya.
Oh, 20-30 ya?
Ya, boleh lebih, boleh kurang. Yang jelas nanti sesinya sampai jam 5 gitu. Selebihnya tanya jawab gitu, diskusi.
Jam 3 sampai jam 5.
Ya, berarti di sana cukup ini ya. Apakah tidak apa-apa?
Ya. Oh ya, 30 menit. Ya, mungkin bisa lebih dari 30 menit kali ya.
Oke.
Ya, mau lebih juga boleh, nggak masalah. Oke, silahkan Pak Gulam.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the second session of today. We have Professor Masaki Okamoto from Kyoto University of Japan. And I think we already, some of us may be familiar with Professor Okamoto's work because he consistently conduct research about politics in Southeast Asia, mostly in Thailand, Philippines, and Indonesia. And we are glad that some of participants from this summer course are also from Thailand and Philippines. So hopefully during the discussion, we can expand the topics that presented by Professor Okamoto. For beginning of the session, I will welcome Pak Wija for the introduction. Please, Pak Wija.
Okay, thank you, Pak Gulam. Selamat sore. Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to introduce a little bit, Pak Masaki Okamoto, even though many of you already know, I believe. This is Professor Masaki Okamoto is a professor at the Graduate School of ASEAN and African Area Studies in Kyoto University. Also a professor in Center for Southeast Asian Studies, CSIS in Kyoto University. I guess he has a wide range of research topics, research interests. We just put some of them in here, local politics and government in Indonesia, for instance. Jakarta is institutionally volatile, local politics in Jakarta, anomaly from Indonesia's local politics, Jawara in power, kelompok kerasan, dan bos lokal di era reformasi, and many more. Some times ago, several months ago, Pak Okamoto has also come in LP3S presenting a very interesting topic about premanism in Indonesia. That's one of his research interests. However, he's nowadays, I guess, shifting maybe, or broadening his research focus into digital politics as well. And today we would like to hear about maybe his experience or his latest research on digital politics, especially with regard to network analysis. Maybe Pak Okamoto will present the result of his research findings. If possible, maybe touch a little bit about the method that he used or occupied. To give you a framework, this session is very important because previously we also learn about the big data in political science, as well as social media and natural language processing, social media analysis too. So okay, without further ado, let's hear from Pak Okamoto. On the screen, I return to Pak Gulam. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Pak Wija, for the introduction. And as we already discussed, Professor Okamoto, you may have 30 minutes, more or less, for the presentation. And hopefully the dynamic of discussion will enrich our session for today. So please, Professor Okamoto.
Yeah, terima kasih banyak. Thank you very much for inviting me to this summer school or Sekolah Panas in Indonesia. I thought that all the participants are Indonesian, so I'm prepared to make a presentation in Bahasa with the PowerPoint slide themselves in English. But I found out that some are from Thailand and the Philippines. That's why I'll give a talk in English. Actually, the PowerPoint slides are in English. That's why speaking in English is not a serious problem. But before talking about my topic, I need to make some excuse. Previously, I'm planning to make a joint presentation with one of my research colleagues, IT specialists, on this topic, but unfortunately, I contacted him several times, but there's no response. That's why my presentation today is not the methodology about the analysis. Some of the parts are related to the analysis, but mainly the presentation is focusing on the findings that we got from the collaborative research with Indonesian researchers. And we just mentioned, I'm expected to give a talk on the network analysis, but my research self has not reached this network analysis yet, still at the sentiment analysis level about local governance. which I can show you later. And the two focus of my topic today are actors behind the data-driven politics and tools utilized by these actors, and my own implementation on using these data tools to analyze the local governance in Indonesia. As you easily know, we are now always connected for 24 hours, and some researchers or some commentators or some journalists, at first, they are quite happy with this connectedness for 24 hours. For example, the pioneer of the IT world, Kevin Kelly, wrote a book, Inevitable. According to this book, the coming age of the internet is the future of the world. It's very rosy future. But after that, Gavin Newsom, he's the governor of California now. He wrote a book on Citizen Bill. It's about the e-governance, how the e-governance is implemented in California. And it is also showing a kind of positive image of the e-governance or internet. On the other hand, other scholars, Bruce, Data, and Goliath, or other John Barrett, are very negative about the coming of the internet age. They are ruining the democracy, or etc. And more analysts and scholars are talking about the negative sides of this internet age. The peak of the negative image of the internet is written by Zuboff, professor at Harvard University. Maybe some of you have heard of this book, The Age of Surveillance Capitalism. It is showing how dangerous this new mode of capitalism, which is called surveillance capitalism, and which is a new mode of capitalism, quite different from the industrial capitalism, which was quite common in the 20th century. But in the 21st century, the mode of capitalism has changed from the industrial one to the surveillance one. And he wrote about the characteristics of this capitalism, and he made a definition. If you read this definition, you can easily see how dangerous this type of capitalism is. And of course, all of you know already that Google maintains our search histories indefinitely for 24 hours until we die. Even after we die, Google knows our search histories, what you look for in the Google, and etc. And these data are available as raw material supplies, and they're used to intelligence agency and law enforcement agency, as you may know. I think Indonesian government is also utilizing these data too, but to what extent we don't know yet. And when questioned about these practices done by Google, the previous CEO, Eric Schmidt, said the reality is that search engines, including Google, do retain this information for some time. He said for some time, but actually indefinitely, as you know. And according to Zuboff, actually, the point is search engines do not retain. The problem is not about the search engine themselves, but surveillance capitalism or the actors in the surveillance capitalism, such as Google, they retain our personal data. So this means that this CEO's statement is a kind of classic misdirection that bewilders the public by conflating Munchampuri commercial imperatives and technological necessity. This kind of misdirection is quite frequently used by the internet guru. It's a bit dangerous. And before digital era, if you see the two world, real world and digital world, and real world is a bit separated from the digital world, but now or we can say it's a kind of extra to real life. But now, maybe we can say now, real life is actually now just a part of the digital life, as we can now communicating by the digital tools. That's why we, in a way, we are now already living a world where real life is just a part of the digital world, and all the personal information are attached to ID. So as Google CEO mentioned, all the information online are known by the IT companies, also the government in a way. So digital society has possibilities and vulnerabilities, especially for the emerging economies. If the emerging economies successfully expand the possibilities of the digital society, they can rapidly develop their own economies, and they can stabilize the politics, and they can achieve the high social welfare. But if they fail it, they can be in a very unstable situation. So digital society is a good chance for the emerging countries like Indonesia and the Philippines, but also it might give a great risk, more risks to emerging countries than to developed countries like Japan and the US. So what are the possibilities and vulnerabilities of the digitalized Indonesia? Maybe possibilities, if digital Indonesia is done well, Indonesia can achieve more dynamic and more participatory democratic society. But if Indonesia fails and fake news are rampant and the government cannot control these kind of fake news or disinformation, the social cleavages worsening, or the conflict based on the social cleavages are worsening. Identity-based conflict and class-based conflict are more frequent that polarize the Indonesian society. So there are two possibilities in the digital world in Indonesia. And if you look at this global digital society globally, in early 21st century, especially before 2015, there's a kind of positive view about the power of the transformative power of digital politics. For example, we experienced Arab Spring in 2011 and Taiwan Sunflower Movement and the Hong Kong Umbrella Movement in 2014. And these might have shown that there's a kind of digital-driven social transformation. Maybe some of the previous presenters gave a talk on this situation. But after that, there's a kind of change, especially after the start of the kind of the new Cold War between the US and China. There's a change. If you look at the situation in Europe, Brexit, and Trump was elected as the US president in 2016, and Duterte became the Philippine president, and Bolsonaro became the president in Brazil. And we are now a lot of populist leaders globally. So this is clearly showing the importance of digital politics, because the emergence of these populist leaders were possible partly because of the digital politics. And the importance of digital politics is becoming more spectacular, especially during the current COVID-19 pandemic situation, and of course, even after the COVID-19 pandemic situation. So if you look at the researches on this digital politics, previously there's kind of utopia view on this politics, but now more and more scholars are saying or focusing on the dystopia aspect. If you look at the authoritarian regime like China, the state can have more can have more powerful state surveillance power, but not only the authoritarian regime, even democratic regime can conduct a surveillance by the capitalist in collaboration with the state power. And post-truth phenomena is quite normal now in any part of the country. Maybe all of you know the definition of the post-truth. That's why I don't need to explain this one. One of the most spectacular, fantastic examples of the post-truth is done by Cambridge Analytica. Maybe all of you know this company, Cambridge Analytica. You can watch the documentary Great Hack in Netflix, or there are two autobiographies by whistleblowers who worked in the Cambridge Analytica, but they realized that how dangerous the works done by Cambridge Analytica was. That's why they became whistleblower, and they talked about the practice and the actions and the activities done by Cambridge Analytica, and they wrote books, and they conducted political campaigns in Thailand, Malaysia, and also Indonesia during the reformasi period. As you know, Cambridge Analytica is considered to be the main player of the election of the Donald Trump and the Brexit. So if you look at this video created by Channel 4, the UK's broadcasting company, you can share the voice. Oh, why? Why? Oh, gosh. Let's see. You can share the voice.
Not yet. But we can see the picture.
Here, but Swedish. You cannot hear the voice.
Still not yet.
Oh, so
Sometimes,
yeah.
Now we can hear it.
That company,
Because I guess Trump appears, so we can hear it.
online information war, where often unseen hands harvest your personal data, tapping into your hopes and fears for the greatest political yield. And one British company is at the very heart of it. We've worked under the radar in elections in Nigeria, Kenya, the Czech Republic, India, and Argentina. But they are best known for their work in America. There can be no prosperity without law and order. That company is Cambridge Analytica.
Oh, PR commercials.
Is that immediately recording? Yeah. After a 4-month undercover investigation, tonight a glimpse into how they really operate. Prepared, it seems, to ruin their clients' opponents through handouts and honey traps.
Send some girls around to Annie's house.
Through sex, secrets, and spies.
I know people who used to work there and spy them, I think.
Old-style tactics wedded to the new.
We were putting information into the bloodstream, the internet, and then watch it grow.
Whether the true backdrop or just bravado. This is Cambridge Analytica Uncovered. Great pleasure. Yes, thank you. Okay, thank you very much. That's the next time. Goodbye.
So I'll send later the link. So if you are interested in this one, please watch this documentary. It's very interesting. So I'll go back to my presentation. And according to the Cambridge Analytica, there's a personality 5-factor model. Personality is comprised of openness, conscientiousness, extraversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. And if we can analyze these factors, we can see each person's personality quite well. And they find people with dark triad, those with strong narcissism and Machiavellianism, and those with psychopath. And they export those people with new narratives, anti-government narratives during the Trump campaign. And what did those targeted people do? Actually, at first, they keep receiving the negative image information on the government, kept receiving. At first, they resisted this kind of narratives, but keep receiving these information. Finally, they transform themselves to become more disruptive, or they started to have a kind of disruptive behavior because of the incessant acceptance of the new narratives. And actually, Cambridge Analytica operated some operations in different countries. For example, in South Africa, they are asked by the government to disrupt the narcotics organization. That's why they find some cadres in the organization, those with these triad characteristics. And they kept sending the information on these cadres, and those cadres started to be suspicious of the boss of the narcotics organization. And finally, this narcotic organization fell apart. So the operation was quite successful. And Cambridge Analytica successfully peeped all the online private life in Trinidad Tobago with the support from the government. They can keep watching all the private life through all the cameras. They started to create a computer model to predict human behavior by using Facebook likes. There's a paper, academic paper, the title is Computer-Based Personality Judgments Are More accurate than those made by humans. According to this article, or according to the view by Cambridge Analytica, if we check one person's Facebook account and check which message did this person give likes, and there are 10 likes for different messages, then the computer can know that person's characteristic better than coworker. And if we check 150 likes of one person, the computer can know about this person better than family members. And if we check 300 likes of one Facebook user, computer can better know that person better than spouse. That is an analytical result by one article, but it's a kind of exaggeration. But Cambridge Analytica sold this idea to people, maybe including the President Donald Trump. But it's really scary if this is true. So if maybe all of you have more than 300 likes to several messages, then computer can know about you better than your wife or your husband. That's scary. And Alex Cogan, who actually had initially helped Cambridge Analytica with the data collection, but he himself didn't believe Cambridge Analytica could do that. It's a kind of hyped business messages in order to get more clients. And another scholar, David Sumter, also was quite suspicious of the power of Cambridge Analytica to analyze the person's character in such a better way. But Kaisel, who worked at Cambridge Analytica, said North Carolina Group 3 consisted of young female voters who displayed high neuroticism and cared most about the economy, national security, and immigration. And Cambridge Analytica showed advertisement to those voters, that advertisement that highlighted the failures of the current administration's national security policy. And also similar things were done to other groups during the campaign for the Trump. And Channel 4 News has actually obtained a vast cache of data by Donald Trump campaign in 2016, almost 200 million American voters. And Cambridge Analytica utilized this data so that millions of Black Americans not to go into the casting to cast the votes by giving the negative image of the election. But I don't know whether this is really true or not. But the point is, we are really in the age of the digital-driven politics. And actually, this is not limited in the US or in Europe, but also now in Indonesia. So how about the development of digital politics in Indonesia? As far as I remember, actually, our Japanese scholars conducted the researches on elections every 5 years, and we made a report on the election. And as far as I know, in 2019, the second direct presidential election, at that time, the most influential media was TV commercials. But finally, Yudhoyono created a website, similar, looks like a website by Barack Obama. It's quite similar, right? Just Ikutan. But at that time, Yudhoyono himself also didn't know how strong the impact was in the future of this digital politics. But then in Jakarta gubernatorial election in 2012, Oaks and Bot emerged. And in 2014 presidential election, Cyber Army also joined the election campaigns. And finally, in 2019, another new development in the field of digital politics. That is, the campaign team started to utilize big data, artificial intelligence. Also, they conducted a kind of political micro-targeting. So the election in 2019 was a kind of political turning point for the Indonesian politics as far as digital politics is concerned, but not only digital politics. Actually, Indonesian politics is fundamentally transforming itself after 2019. So now we can say that the kind of the era of influencers and boosters and IT specialists and companies, and a lot of IT specialists and IT companies are now strongly involved in the election campaigns since 2019. And the term of the influencer in the Google Indonesia Google search rapidly, a lot of people started to check the word influencer in the Google search engine since 2016, because bingo, apa maksud influencer? Ayo cari di Google. Itu jadi fenomenal sejak tahun 2016. And the number of the Twitter users has also dramatically increased from 27% of the total internet user in 2018 to 52% in 2019. 1 out of 2 internet users have Twitter accounts now. So as I mentioned earlier, IT specialists were significantly politicized. Maybe for the first time, I'm joined in both camps with different strategies. So we have a lot of fake news during the election campaign. That's why for the election campaign team, the most important thing is how to discern the real voice of the people in the online world. And in order to understand or realize and finally analyze the real voices of the people, the election campaign team started to utilize big data, machine learning by AI, and micro-targeting. So these are the new tools of the election in Indonesia since 2019. So now Indonesia is enjoying new tools for elections or new technologies for elections. And these are creating new patterns of politics and also new ways of seeing politics. So analyzing the politics digitally. That's why we are strongly required, especially the researchers are now strongly required to conduct a kind of new interdisciplinary approach in not only the political scientists, but also IT analysis in order to understand politics more correctly. There are two ways of approach to this emerging new types of politics. First is the analysis of the actors behind the digital politics, who are actually conducting the digital analysis, utilizing machine learning, or utilizing big data for AI, or utilizing big data for political micro-targeting. This is one way. The second way is the researchers themselves conduct the analysis utilizing big data, utilizing the artificial intelligence. So actually, I want to talk about two aspects now, but the time is limited. That is why I will focus on the second point, the limits and possibilities of data-driven politics, or how the researchers can conduct the big data analysis. Actually, I'm not a specialist on the IT at all. My focus was on the Bremen or Strongman or Sachs. That's why I don't need to learn these things. But now, without understanding the IT, I can no longer cannot be a researcher on Indonesian politics. That's why I am now forced to study the impact of IT for analyzing the Indonesian politics. Okay, I'll skip the actors point. This one will be published from ICEAS soon. So please read that one. One thing for quite sure is that there are IT specialist team behind the campaign team. So I made an interview with them. And they said, especially those in the Jokowi team, the winner side said, we utilize big data we utilized artificial intelligence and we predicted the election result quite correctly without conducting a survey done by survey institutes such as LSI, etc. We conducted the digital analysis utilizing the Twitter data, Facebook data, Instagram data, and we correctly predicted the election results. And they said that is why the politics of algorithm or AI or machine learning and big data are quite essential part of the political analysis in Indonesia now. That's what they say. But I'm still suspicious whether the AI is really effective in understanding the Indonesian voting behavior or Indonesian politics or not. That's why I also created a project on the big data. And this is skip this one too. This is the research project reconsidering good governance in Indonesia, big data analysis. And in collaboration with a Japanese IT specialist and the Indonesian company, Kata Data. Kata Data is also a now emerging IT company, and they have a lot of data, and they're quite helpful for our research. And what are the purposes of this research? First, to analyze the people's online views on sectors under the local government authority. Secondly, analyze the characteristics of online accounts of online users and their networks. Thirdly, comparing the online views or the networks, online networks, and the offline views and networks. So the kind of, I'm trying to make a comparison between the online world and offline world in the field of politics. So we can say it's a kind of challenging trials to combine two seemingly totally different research methodologies, big data analysis and field-based researches. So first, we conducted a big data analysis. And what is the big data? This time, we decided to utilize tweets and collected 1.5 million tweets. And first step is to identify the most tweeted local governments, because we have, if we chose the local governments or Kabupaten Kota with less tweets, it's quite difficult to make analysis on the people's view. That's why we need to identify the local governments with many tweets on their government, Kabupaten Kota. And how did we do? First, we conducted a random sampling of tweets, around to 300,000 tweets. And we choose the tweets that mention or that say something about 509 local governments. The total number of local governments in Indonesia, especially the second tier level, is 509. That's why we check the tweet that have that mentions on these local governments in 2013 to 2020. So the keywords used to conduct a random sampling is pemerintah, which means government in Bahasa Indonesia, plus Kabupaten Kota or district or city, second tier level government. Or in the case of Jakarta, Jakarta has second tier government. Jakarta has also Kabupaten and Kota, but these Kabupaten Kota are not autonomous region. So that's why in the case of Jakarta, we choose province and also region's name. And we collected around 300,000 tweets. And these tweets are not only the original tweets, some tweets are just reply, some tweets are just what called retweet. That's why we selected original tweets not reply or retweet. And there's a kind of reaction to the tweets. That's why we choose the original tweets with like. And the total number of tweets collected is around 20,000 tweets. And we made a ranking out of around 2,000 tweets from 1 to 13. And finally, we choose 32 most tweeted local governments plus 3 local governments, which 3 local governments have less tweets, but academically interesting because these local area has high social cleavages, such as Pekanbaru City, Palu City, and Poso City. This is the result. We choose these 35 kabupaten and kota total. And if we check it, 22 are from Java and 13 are from non-Java. And more city government are chosen. It's quite understandable. More urban people are more frequent Twitter commenters. That's why 23 out of 35 local governments are city government and 12 are district governments. Okay, I can show you the number of tweets one by one. But now, secondly, we choose the themes, major sectors under the authority of Kabupaten Kota government. So we choose 7 themes: education, public health, and of course COVID-19 pandemic, employment, waste management, housing, and local governance. Sub-themes police. The most challenging thing is to select the keywords relevant for each sectors, because when we collect the tweets, we need to input the keywords in the tweets. So we made several discussion with Kappa Data and our Japanese team. And for example, the COVID case, the keywords that are quite relevant for the COVID-19 theme are as follows. COVID-19, of course, is a keyword, and corona, mask, pandemic, virus, PSBB, quarantine, etc. And we utilize these keywords for choosing the tweets. And not only the general keywords, but each local government has its own unique policies in every field, usually. For example, case of Jakarta. Jakarta has a housing policy called Rumah DP 0%. I forgot this abbreviation. Or in the field of public health, JACPRAC, call center SPGDT, or employment and poverty reduction, OKOCHE. That's why we also include these keywords, and finding the keyword is really tough and time consuming. I can show you the Chonto. This is the keyword for each local government. For example, Jakarta, these are the unique policies. and the number is the tweets mentioning these keywords. And for example, Kota Medan, I don't know, Kota Medan has so many unique policies. I don't know, NICE or Nietzsche or Kela, DIS, PKH, Kota Raya, ANA, etc., etc. So we checked the local policies names and we included these two for the analysis. And by using these keywords, our target is to correct 4.5 million tweets. This is a combination, name of city or name of leader. Example, in 2014-15, the governor of Jakarta was Joko Widodo. That's why we need to choose the keyword Joko Widodo or Jokowi or JKW, or the name of the province, Jakarta or JKT or DKI, and keyword for each theme. So this is the way of correcting the tweets data. But it turned out we can just correct around 1.5 million tweets. So actually we try to correct 4.5 million tweets by using these combination of keywords, but just 1.5 million tweets. Maybe that means not so many people are tweeting using these keywords. A lot of people are mentioning the election campaign in the tweets, but not so many people still mention about the local government issues. That is one of the reasons why we just collected 1.5 million tweets. But okay, this is the number of tweets according to the theme. The most frequently tweeted theme is housing. And others, environment education as follows. And the Kabupaten Kota, the number of tweets which Jakarta is the most frequently mentioned in the tweet. And secondly, Kota Bandung, thirdly, Kota Bekasi, and fourthly, Kota Tangerang. And how about the name of the local heads, whether they are mentioned frequently or not? The most frequently mentioned local head is Basuki Cahayapurnama or Ahok, the Jakarta governor, previous Jakarta governor. And secondly, Joko Widodo, and then Aidin or Tri Rismani. But some of the local heads are not mentioned at all. From 2013 to 2020, for example, the head of the Kabupaten Klaten, Narna, was just mentioned by one tweet. Well, that's really sad. Which means popular local heads have more, is more frequently mentioned. And this is the result of the frequency of the tweets year by year of 5 important local governments: Jakarta, Bandung City, Bekasi City, Tangerang City, and Surabaya City. So in 2013 in Jakarta, the most frequently tweeted themes is seemingly this one, health issue. On the other hand, in Surabaya, the most frequently tweeted theme is employment or education. So that's why if you look at this data, each local government has its own characteristics on the tweets, the information. This is 2013, and this is 2015, and this is 2019 and 2020. And naturally, in 2020, COVID-19 is more and more frequently mentioned in all the 5 districts and cities. It's quite natural. And we also conducted a sentiment analysis on these tweets. At first, we made a labeling for sampled tweets. For example, in COVID-19, we have around 80,000 tweets, and we made a labeling to 5 to 10% out of the total tweets in each sector. And the labeling is neutral, negative, and positive. And this is not done by the computer, but this is done by manual. That's really tough. And Kata Data did it. For example, in COVID-19, there are 80,000 tweets, and Kata Data chose 6,000 tweets out of the 80,000. And Kata Data people read all the 6,000 tweets and checked the contents and gave, oh, this is a neutral one, this is a negative one, and this is a positive one. And after that, we conducted a machine learning on the relationship between the words in tweets and the sentiment, utilizing the 20% of the sampled tweets. So we have 6,000 sampled tweets. 20% means around how much? 2,000. And let them understand if tweet has this word, bagus, which means, oh, it's very positive. Or kurang bagus, if the word is included in one tweet, it means this tweet has a negative sentiment. So it is learned by machine. And then we utilize 6 different algorithms to conduct sentiment analysis on the rest of the sampled tweet, 80% of the sampled tweets. So we try 6 different algorithms and which is better or not. We tried it and check the accuracy of algorithm analysis. So we know the result by manual. Oh, this tweet is negative, this tweet is positive, this tweet is negative. And then we utilize algorithm without knowing the result done by manual label. And then we check if one algorithm gave negative to one tweet, whether it's true or not, according to the manual label or not. So we did it for 6 algorithms. And the result is this. We utilize these 6 models. Each model has its own characteristics. And the score is this one. Do you understand what the meaning of 0.539? The accuracy level is 0.539. So you can say that out of 100 tweets, maybe one algorithm, for example, logistic regression model can be accurate on the sentiment, just around 53% to 54%. And we tried these 6 algorithms for 7 sectors. And in average, the best model for analyzing the sentiment is multinomial naive Bayes. So we utilize this model for all the 7 schemes. And this is a prediction result for COVID-19. We decreased some data because it's not clear. That's why we utilize 76,000 tweets out of 80,000 tweets in the field of the COVID-19. And the result done by algorithm is this one. They said out of 76,000 tweets, negative sentiment tweets are around 28%, neutral 43%, and positive are 28%. This is the prediction results done by the one algorithm. This is data. This is the original tweet data, and we omitted some words such as done, etc., because it's not useful for analyzing the tweets. And then algorithm predicted, oh, this sentence is a neutral one, this sentence is negative one, etc. And we did it for all the same: COVID, employment, environment, health, and housing. And in average, the accuracy is just 0.55 to 0.63. So the accuracy is not so high enough in the context of Bahasa Indonesia. We utilize this model for the English language, English tweets. The accuracy rate is 0.8e, but now in Indonesia, the accuracy rate is just around 0.52 or 0.566 in the field of local governance. But if you look at the case of COVID-19, it's very different sentiment in each kabupaten kota. For example, Blora, Kabupaten Blora has neutral sentiment with very large. On the other hand, Kota Manado, Manado city has more positive tweets in the field of COVID-19. So it's a quite different variety. And we know who are making negative comments. And in the case of COVID-19, frequently compass.com made a negative comments on COVID-19 in all the cities and districts. Positive comments are done by these usernames. So we would like to conduct a further analysis on the following points. Why is there such a big difference of tweet pattern on any topic among Kabupaten Kota, district, and cities? And how are the impact of the influencers, or how are the impact of influencers networks on this different pattern or different sentiment shown in the tweets? And how different are the frequently discussed topics among the tweets, online news, and actual community? Actually, if you look at the tweet data, some topics, for example, in Surabaya city, education is quite frequently discussed in the tweet. But how about the discussion in the online newspapers? Or how about the actual discussion among the local people? Education is really frequently discussed or not? So we like to check how different the topics discussed in the online field, in the tweets, online news, and actual community. And unfortunately, or unexpectedly, accuracy rate of sentiment analysis on tweets, as shown before, is not so high for Bahasa Indonesia, 0.55 to 0.66. And it's lower than the sentiment analysis done for tweet in Bahasa English. That's why we can say we should be careful about any sentiment analysis written in the media. And we need to make a more hard effort to improve the algorithm. And also, we need to conduct a field-based research so that we cannot conclude, oh, a lot of things, sentiment clear or negative in the field of COVID-19 in Surabaya city, example, if we look at the tweet analysis. But that might not be true if we listen to the people's idea directly. So in order to know how powerful the comments in the tweet, we need to conduct a field-based research too. That is what we are now thinking about the big data analysis or the combination of big data analysis and field-based researches. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Okamoto. And it is very interesting presentation since you also share to us about your experience on conducting research using Twitter from 2013 until 2020. Okay, we going to the next discussion. We already have two questions at the chat box. First from Anthony Lee of Kompas, and second from Taufan. So for the first opportunity, Mas Anthony, you'd like to directly ask to Professor Okamoto?
Thank you, Pak Gulam.
Yes.
Thank you, Pak Masaki, for your wonderful presentation. I have a very simple question. This is technicalities about data collection, because 1.5 billion tweets is quite huge, and the time span is also very long, from 2013 until 2020. I was wondering, because Twitter API has certain limitation. For example, we can only request maximum of 18,000 tweets per request, but this can be handled by certain package in programming language. For example, in R, we can use retry unlimit. But my question is, how do you deal with the limitation that we can only scrape tweets from the last 7 days, while your research is spanned from 2013 until 2020? Did you collect the tweets in a particular time in every year, or did you collect that all years long? That's a question from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Santoni. Yeah, I think you may respond for this question first, and later on we will move to the different question.
Yeah, thank you, Pak Anthony. Yeah, actually, the answer should be done by my IT specialist. I'm not a specialist on data collecting at the stage, but at that time, the tweet is not free. We bought it. And as far as I remember, 150,000 tweet would be around 2,500 US dollar or something. So now free, right? At that time, we can buy them at that time. So that's why we can more easily get the data. But it takes a lot of time, keep collecting the data by using the several computers and servers. And we bought a server for that too. But I'm sorry, I cannot correctly answer this point.
Thank you, Pak Masik. I think you answered it already, because I was talking from the free one perspective, because
no
it seems that Twitter only posts that restriction for the free users of Twitter, but for the paid one, I think, well, that limitation doesn't matter, doesn't happen. Yeah, thank you, Pak Masaki.
So that's why a little bit expensive. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Mas Anthony. Yeah. And we move to second question from Taufan, but Taufan cannot directly ask because of the internet connection problem. So I will read for Taufan. Wonderful speech, Okamoto Sensei. You said that data-driven politics tend to justify post-truth campaigns in Indonesia. Could you elaborate it? Is that mean that cyber troops are have really dominated Indonesian vital public sphere? What about the influences of pro-democratic activists in the tweets-driven politics today? Thanks.
Ya, terima kasih. Pak Taufan, terima kasih. Yeah, thank you very much for the comments. Actually, there are some civil society movements to check the disinformation or the fake news. Maybe some of you know Mafindo, for example, and they are really making great effort to check the disinformation or not to spread the fake news. If they found out some fake news, they tell the people that these are the hoax, etc. But so many disinformation. That's why when I met them, it's quite hard to check all the misinformation of hoax. That's beyond their own capacity. There is a chance for any what I call people with bad intentions. And that it's quite easy for them to spread fake news. Even in 2019, according to the Tempo analysis, around 10% of the Western people are believing that Jokowi is a communist or something like that, right? And in 2019, that's still just 10% or something. But if they keep receiving the disinformation, it has become the reality. And actually, there's a difference between facts and truth. Fakta dan kebenaran. And kebenaran or truth is the interpretation of the facts. So that can be different based according to each person's understanding. So that's why if they keep receiving misinformation, they are trying to believe that this is the truth. Maybe it might not be the fact, but it can be true for themselves. And that could be easily happen. And as you know, Indonesia also has a hoax industry. And it's now still powerful, and the Indonesian government is trying to stop it, but still it has difficulty. Thank you. And it's I was really amazed this one, this company UB Sosmed. Kalau kamu bayar 65.000, kamu dapat 1.000 followers. Wah, enak juga. And sometimes they can get the followers from abroad. Yeah. That's all. I cannot hear your voice. 違うのかな?
Pak Salvatore Simarmata, please.
Yeah. Hi. Hello.
Yeah. Terdengar jelas.
Okay. I will
Yes,
not be able to show my screen. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
So my question is, I mean, I'm also working almost with the same topic at the moment, but I find it very interesting about the way you categorize the actors of digital politics with regard to the 2019 presidential elections. How did you categorize the actors? I mean, did you apply any underlying criteria, or you just identify one by one as it appears at face value? So how did you categorize the actors? I think because of the time you skip those. Second question, if I may, as a researcher, it's very hard to interview people that conduct, especially digital campaigning that go against, let's say, morality, something like that, like manipulation, fake news, and so on and so forth. Based on your experience, do you have any, suggestion how to spot those irregularities digitally? I mean, without any, interviewing actors. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Pak Salvatore. There are two questions. One already posted at the chat box, and the second is already asked to you. Please, your response, Professor Okamoto.
Yeah, about the actors first. At first, when I conducted a research on the presidential election in 2019, I didn't imagine that I would make a research on the IT politics in 2019.
Okay.
But when I met some of the campaign team members, they started talk that they started to utilize big data or artificial intelligence and etc. For example, I met Eri Ahmadi. He's now the ambassador in Japan, right? He said he has his own think tank and using big data. So I asked him, so who are they? He wouldn't tell me. Rahasya, secret, I cannot tell you. So at first, it's quite difficult to get the information about the actors behind the campaign. But finally, I found a friend, and he gave information about who are they. And that is the start of my research on this IT politics in the 2019 election. And and these are you can see my screen. As you know, Andy Vijayanto created a team R1.
Yes.
Yeah, and Hoki Shitunkeo, who headed a team Corona, is an IT specialist from ITB, is working for him. I know, I understood, and there are several. For example, Political Wave is also worked for Jokowi at that time, and also Buzzers are hired Willing Yusron. Also, JustMap also was created again for the Jokowi campaign. But these are rather formal, but another informal one, it's not clear it's a formal organization or not, but this kind of volunteer organization for big data analysis, that is a PBPR, Poster Rinaldi, the strong support from PDIP. So I met them and I collected the data on their activities and what actually they are doing. So this is, if you go to their office, this is many big screens. For example, PBPR, what is Bahasa Indonesia? Rumah Bersama Pelayan Rakyat, community house to serve the people. Maybe you know. And they're making a social media analysis, etc. And they are giving everyday report to the campaign team, what's going on in the online world. And also they are making a weekly report and making some recommendations what to do. And another interesting team is a Team Corona headed by Hoki Stunkeo, and he's the director of the Bandung Fe Institute. Maybe this is come from the Santa Fe Institute, I think, in the US. And when he gave a talk, he said, Indonesia is the data. Indonesia is these data. If you analyze the data, we can understand Indonesia. He said that way. Well, it's very fantastic presentation. And Corona is utilizing AI machine learning. And he said, almost precisely predicted the election result based on each village, he said. And based on this voters' behavior, they conducted a political micro-targeting. So if Jokowi has a plan to visit one village, they gave a data on the characteristic of that village and what to say in the village, and etc. And according to them, this kind of political micro-targeting, targeting the village was effective at that time. So that's why I successfully met them and collected the data for Jokowi's side. But as you said, it's quite difficult to get the information from the opponent team, Bravo team. I met Anthony Leon. He was said to be a kind of the leader of the IT specialist team in Prabowo team, but he was very diplomatic. He said, we are doing nothing wrong. We are not sending any misinformation, disinformation. We are just supporting Prabowo sincerely, he said. But we know it might not be true. And if you look at the comments from the supporters of Prabowo, some are quite negative, and some are very disrespectful of the rival team. That's why I failed to collect the data from the opponent team, and they wouldn't like to show us any information. I met others too, but they didn't say anything. So that's why I found out there's a kind of limit on the online interview analysis on the actors. That's why we need to conduct online research without interviewing them. But maybe Drone Amplit, Ismail already gave a talk, right?
Yeah.
Not yet.
Yesterday.
He's conducting the social network analysis utilizing the Twitter data, and he's showing this kind of result. And according to them, the supporters from Prabowo side was mainly from Hizb Tahrir Indonesia and PKS, we said. But I'm still not sure whether they are really from Hizb Tahrir Indonesia or PKS, because we can create easily any user names. That's why it's quite hard at this moment. So that is a challenge for analyzing the online data. And I still don't find a better way yet. Maybe you belong to the younger generation, so you can do that.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Professor Okamoto. And I think it's getting interesting since you reveal facts behind the screen of the digital campaigns team during the last presidential election. And it is also, we have a question regarding to those teams from Pak Abu Bakar. Pak Abu Bakar, you'd like to say maybe also different kind of question, please, if you like to.
Okay, thank you, Pak Gudam, and good afternoon, Prof. Okamoto. Nice to see you again. Yes, it's a long time ago, I think I met Pak Okamoto. And my question is related to the previous question regarding the digital team behind the Jokowi and Prabowo campaigns. So I'd like to know further to what extent is it the digital campaigns play an important role in winning an election? I mean, it is only one variable, or you mean that this is the most important variable, or please to what extent it is important? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Abu Bakar.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And that is a point that I cannot answer, frequently asked. For example, even during the Trump campaign, whether Cambridge Analytica did make a fundamental role for the winning of Trump or not. That's always asked, but no one can answer correctly. But the people from Cambridge Analytica said, we made Trump the president because of our tactics or because of our strategy. That's what they are selling. But we cannot prove it yet. And that is also true to the campaign team or digital campaign team of Jokowi. When I met Arya Sinulinga from Jokowi team, he said IT analysis was the key for the winning of Jokowi, he said. But we're still not sure. So actually, we need to make a more serious evaluation. But the problem is, we cannot know the algorithm that they utilize. It's a corporate secret, right? That's why we don't know how they reach a kind of conclusion about the possibility of the winning of Jokowi or election results or the voting behaviors. That's a problem. So, but because of its secret, these IT companies can say, we have a very good algorithm. So if we use this algorithm, we can make you win the election, not only the presidential election, but Pilkada or others. So that's why it's still difficult. So my friend said, let them make compete. Each company show their own algorithm. For example, there are six companies have their own algorithm for analyzing voting behavior, right? Let them show it to us, and then we can check it. If not, it's quite difficult to evaluate their performance. What we can see is, as Ismail did it, the characteristics of the teams of each side. The quite different between these two teams. Simply speaking, Jokowi team is organic, elastic, multipolar. There are several important influences in Jokowi team. On the other hand, Prabowo team is very strong one influences, but actually held by several users. And they are using one name, and he spread one message to support Prabowo, and then it is retweeted, replied frequently by other members. That's why it's a kind of very militant. On the other hand, Jokowi team is not so much. There are several centers that they are sending messages to support Jokowi with different words. So we can know the characteristics of each team, but we cannot know the algorithm. That is the problem. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Pak Okamoto.
Any other question from the participant? Maybe you'd like to raise your hand to ask directly to the speaker, please. Okay, for a while, maybe I also have a question for Professor Okamoto. After you conduct this kind of research for presidential election, and you realize that algorithm is in a hiding place because it is part of the company secret, as you mentioned. And then sometimes when we met to the resource person, they are very diplomatic, or they cannot reveal the true story behind what happened with the campaigns team or digital campaigns team. So what is your recommendation to complete this methodology, or maybe to bring the whole picture that if we'd like to conduct this kind of research, we have to also consider different kind of methodology?
Thank you very much for a tough question. Actually, I just showed the actors in Jokowi team this right, but there are other actors, and actually I met them.
Okay.
They wouldn't try to show them. They are secretly working for Jokowi. They even didn't say that we are supporting Jokowi, but they show some logos, and it clearly shows that they are supporting Jokowi, and they are paid by the Jokowi team. And they supported Jokowi and did many strategies, rather dirty strategies too, in the election. So actually, if we have an access, we can get to know what actually other teams are doing. Yeah, but it depends on the luck. If you are lucky enough, you can get it. If not, it's rather high or difficult. But if you make a comparison about the easiness of access to each team, it's quite easy to have an access to the winning side, because they are happy to talk about how successful their strategies are. And opposite side, it's difficult. But if you look at the campaign strategies during the 2019 presidential campaign, Jokowi team has better strategies. and they have more high spec on strategy. Because they started to conduct a political micro-targeting too. As far as I know, Prabowo team didn't do it yet. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Professor Okamoto. Maybe
Maybe
any
I should
other?
have talked about the election campaign, not
Okay,
about local government issues.
yeah, you can add another explanation, and I invite the participant. Maybe any other question, Pak Tommy? Yeah, you already raised the hand. Please, Pak Tommy. Pak Tommy, you may speak. Hello, Pak Tommy. Hello, Pak Tommy. Okay, we move to Pradipa for a while. Please, Pradipa.
Yeah, thank you, Pak Gulam, and thank you, Prof. Okamoto. This is not really a question, but I'm wondering if the result of the research has been published somewhere in the form of article or a book chapter, maybe. I will be very interested in reading it. Thank you in advance, Prof. Okamoto. Very interesting result.
Okay, book recommendation, right?
Yeah, oh yeah, the analysis of the election campaign is going to be published by ICIAS. Actually, this is a edited book on the presidential election, so it should have been published in 2020. But because of the pandemic, I don't know, ICIAS has less budget or not. So it is not published yet. I already submitted a paper and I revised the paper, so just to be published soon, but I don't know when. Yeah, I'm asking Pamade Spriatma too, but it is going to be published because they said they already found the fund money to publish it. So I think it'll be. And about the local governance, it has just started and it has not ended. That's why maybe latter half of this year, we can make some presentation in Indonesia about the result in collaboration with Kata Data.
Thank you, Prof. Okamoto. I'm really looking forward to it.
Okay, thank you, Pradipa. Now we back to Pak Tommy. He experienced with trouble with the microphone, but hopefully you can try once more, Pak Tommy.
Okay. Can
Okay,
you hear
right.
me now?
Yes, very clear, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Okamoto, for your comprehensive explanation. It is very interesting. I'm just wondering, from your research and observation, do you think that we can somehow measure the conversion rate from digital campaign into the real vote? I mean that in the commercial side, we have a rule of thumb that for every campaign that for every 1,000 audience that we can reach for our digital campaign, we could expect at least one could make the decision to buy. Do you think that we can have the same kind of conversion rate for political action like that? And what do you think about the current, how can I say that? The current situation of the so-called political buzzer, in which we see people start not trusting them anymore, not the public trust toward them is not as high as the trust that they gained during the election, the local election in 2017 and the general election in 2019. Do you think using political buzzer is still effective to manipulate public opinion at this time, or we are heading toward another pattern of propagating political opinion. That's all.
Only.
Thank you.
Okay.
Only.
Thank you, Pak Tommy.
I hope it is clear. If not, I will repeat that.
Yeah, I cannot hear your voice well much because of the speaker mic.
Okay, let me repeat two questions from me, Professor. One is, will it be possible for us to measure the effectiveness of the digital campaign, yeah, by using quantitative measure? For instance, for every 1,000 audience that we can reach with digital campaign, how many will give their vote for us? That's one. Second is, what do you think about the public trust toward the political buzzer right now? Can we still, do you think that political buzzer, political influencers are still effective to convey the political message from certain politician or political party? That's all for me.
Yeah, thank you. Digital. First to the second comment answer to the second question. Thank you for the very interesting questions about the political buzzers. Actually, it's up to the situation. During the 2017 gubernatorial elections and 2019 presidential election, there's a clear dichotomy, right, between two campaign teams. At that time, the role of the buzzer was becoming stronger. But now, there's not so clear topics to divide the society into two different groups. At that time, the role of the political buzzer is not so strong now. But maybe we don't know. Someone make a very good package to oppose the Jokowi and his supporters facing the 2024 presidential election. And if they can make a very good package to make a clear division of Indonesian society into two, then the role of the political buzzer is again becoming quite influential. So the key is how to stop the creation of the ideas on Indonesia to divide the society into two. So dichotomy is a great chance for the political buzzers, I think. Now, all the Indonesian people are now faced with the COVID-19 pandemic, so there's no clear division yet. But I don't know in 2024. And the quantitative conversion. When I had a talk with Hoki Stunkel, for example, he can understand each villager's voting behavior. Or when I met someone from the company belonging to PBPR, they are conducting the interviews and also Facebook analysis, and they can know the voting behaviors, which party they will vote, which presidential candidate they will vote. They said they can know that. And if they conducted a political micro-targeting, targeting to the people with some kind of idea and force them to change their idea, maybe that might be effective to transform their voting behaviors. But at this stage, we still have no proof that Indonesia is now in such a situation. We still don't know yet. But in the future, it might be. And some companies are now doing that too. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor.
Okay, we have another question from S2 Putri Wilujeng. I will read for you. Dear Pak Okamoto, I would like to ask what, I will read the question for you. WhatsApp has become the most second media of politics or hoax sharing information after Facebook. Then why do you choose Twitter? Is there any methods to generate WhatsApp shared information without any violating the privacy of the user? Thank you.
Yeah, that's also a good question. Actually, it's quite difficult to get the data of WhatsApp. But some Jokowi team members said they are infiltrating into the opponent team and make analysis on what they are talking about. Or they, what I call, the crack down the WhatsApp application so that they can easily enter to any groups, but it's not legal, illegal. That's why at first they don't like to say, but bicara lama-lama, mereka mulai bongkar sedikit-sedikit. So bagi peneliti, it's impossible. On the other hand, we can get rather easily about the personal information if we collect the data from the Twitters. The Twitter is the easiest tool for big data analysis. That's why we choose it. Facebook is also a bit difficult now. Now Twitter is the best way for the analysis. And if I showed you before, the number of the internet user who also use Twitter is already 52%, right? That's rather high. That's why maybe we can make a Twitter analysis and we can say something about the digital politics too. But in 5 years later, maybe Indonesian people sudah bosan dengan Twitter. So mereka mulai pakai aplikasi yang lain. They are going to use different applications for the communications. We don't know.
Okay, Mbak Estu, that's the answer from Pak Okamoto. And then any other participant who maybe also you'd like to share about your experience as mentioned first by Mas Anthony Lee. I think I also experienced the same with Twitter when I conduct research in 2017, because if we'd like to grab the data in conventional way, I mean that we not use third parties to or to pay the third parties for data gaining. I think we have a limitation because Twitter only have, as Mas Anthony said, around 18,000 tweets per request. So yeah, I think it's also enriching our knowledge about using Twitter in order to conduct research. So I also invite the participant who'd like to share and maybe Prof. Okamoto also like to expand the explanation regarding the local government research, please.
From the participants first.
Okay, any participant?
How about you? You also conducted a Twitter analysis.
Yes.
You also conduct research.
Yeah. In my research actually about the use of Twitter for the people of Semarang. in order to have communication with the mayor. And as you mentioned, Hendar Prihadi, or Hendi, is also one of the, I think, influential, in the middle with 1,879. Actually, just before he established Lapor Hendi, which is a multi-platform social media, not only Twitter, but also Instagram or others social media. First, he established Twitter, and at that time, he was very active at Twitter. So any kind of report regarding the public problem, whether it is about road, electricity, or maybe public administration, such as certificate or any kind of social assistance, he will directly reply and then try to what we call ask the superior that has authority on that kind of area. So it is very fast. My experience is that I report about the broken road next to my neighborhood, and then less than 24 hours, he replied. And also the governor of Central Java, Ganjar Pranowo, also replied, because I also tagged Ganjar Pranowo in my report to the Hendi in order to paying attention to the higher authority. And yes, indeed, within less than 3 days, the road is already fixed with the constraint, and I think it is a much better structure. So up to now, maybe 4 or 5 years, the road still firm. And I think that's the importance of Twitter when we have to discuss or to make a report to the official. But right now, with the growing number of social media that the mayor had to handle, I think not of the citizen report will be replied privately. Sometimes he just deliver to the other office or other official, and I think it is not really make a satisfaction to the citizen, because it seems like, yes, I know you reporting to me and I will deliver to the authority. Maybe my my people who will taking care of this. That's my experience in 2017, I think.
Oh, interesting. So Twitter use is just a kind of boom.
Yeah, but right now I think it's not as important as a couple of years later, because now we have Instagram. Yeah, I think Instagram is the most popular social media that we can deal with the authority. In fact, when I try to present this with my fellow in Universitas Indonesia, some of my fellow that comes from Bogor or comes from Depok, they quite shocked, because how can you easily contact your mayor and then reporting about the problem, and immediately you get response. So it seems like not all area or not all the leader in local government in Indonesia responsive to use social media for, you know, opening the channel of communication with the citizen.
It was also true to the Ridwan Kamil when he was a mayor in West Bandung.
Yes, Ridwan Kamil, yeah. Yes.
Response rate is quite responsive, quite quick. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's yeah, much higher compared to Semarang Mayor Hendra Prihadi. It's, Ridwan Kamil, I think nearly 9,000 number of tweets. Yeah, so it is data from 2017
13 to 2020. So
okay, yeah, it's so yeah, it's I think we just confirm that it is happened, and in Semarang the mayor he did use tweet for communicating with the citizen, and it works. And I don't know, possibly he will be admired as the future governor of Central Java.
Oh, yeah?
Who knows? I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
Losing
This is this year is second term of his administration, and he only the single candidate that running in the last pilkada. Yeah, calon tunggal. Pak Wija, any comments just before concluding remarks from Professor Okamoto?
No. I think we really enjoyed the presentation from Pak Okamoto, yeah, and we actually have research about the actors as well. Perhaps we can share next time, yeah. So we're in LPDG as we are doing conducting research about the cyber troops, and we investigate who they are. You know, we saw the accounts, right? The Twitter account. Sometimes they use anonymous account, not real names. We investigated who they are, who pay them, what's their motivation, why they do it, something like that. And we're going to publish some of the findings in Inside Indonesia next month, yeah, October. We could share the results afterwards. Perhaps if you are interested, then I will share it to you to your email as well. Some of the researchers of the projects are here as well, the team. This is an update, yeah, but it's very interesting to learn about, you know, another researcher conducting more or less the same research for other cases, yeah, and with a slightly different focus. Thank you, Pak Okamoto.
Thank you.
Pak Okamoto, just before we finish with the session, maybe any concluding remarks or suggestion, recommendation for the fellow participant, because maybe some of them also in the middle of research, or they have ideas of conducting research that much more similar with your research. I think it will be very interesting.
Yeah, and maybe Pak Okamoto's statement is very interesting in the beginning, yeah. I have to learn this digital politics in order to learn about Indonesia. Perhaps in your closing statement, you can explain why that is.
Thank you very much for the very thoughtful comments from the participants. Yeah, also, and all of the comments are quite good, and that's why these questions are quite difficult to answer. That's why I have some difficulties to answer the questions from the participants. And myself, actually, I want to expand my research on local governance to conduct network analysis. For example, Surabaya City, maybe if you look at the data, tweet data, some people are very strong influencer, and they are spreading some informations. For example, on the situation of COVID in Surabaya City and others. And I would like to know who they are and how they are influential in shaping the opinion in Surabaya City as a whole. That is what we are trying to do. And in order to do that, we need to conduct not only the digital analysis, but also the field survey. So in the future, understanding the digital politics is one of the keys for understanding Indonesian politics, because more and more politicians and the team behind the politicians are starting to utilize these kind of tools to understanding the voting behavior, but also to influence the voters in a positive way or in a negative way. That's why without understanding this point, it is becoming harder and harder to understand the Indonesian politics. But also, still we need to conduct field-based researches. Maybe still conducting an interview with actors, as Pawija mentioned, that is also quite important because we might make a misunderstanding on the Indonesian politics by just looking at the online political space. And that is, but that's why it's also the most important thing is a kind of the combination of digital politics analysis and field-based research analysis. And now it's quite difficult under COVID-19 pandemic, but hopefully next year we can have a more freer research activities in any part of the Indonesia. That's all. And hopefully I can make a research collaboration with some of you, because especially younger generation are quite good at IT things. Better than me and better than maybe Pawija or others, I don't know. But thank you.
Yeah, sure. Hopefully ya, semoga kita bisa kolaborasi di masa depan. But it's already good ya. It's part of the collaboration as well, right? To share the stuff, so to have discussion. Thank you. Arigatou gozaimasu.
Arigatou. Terima kasih banyak ya. Sampai jumpa nanti di Jakarta atau di Semarang atau di Kyoto.
Dan semoga saat itu pandeminya sudah tidak ada lagi.
Ya, saya pengen undang Pak Wija juga.
Ya, saya akan dengan senang hati. Terima kasih kawan-kawan semua. Saya kembalikan ke Pak Gulam.
Okay, thank you, Professor Okamoto, for your insightful presentation. And I think your concluding remarks is also important, that you emphasize on make a combination between digital research as well as field research, because it is can make research more complete. Thank you for Professor Okamoto and also for the participant. And tomorrow we will have a session on introduction to digital ethnography with Mas Zamzam Fauzanafi. It will be started on 3 p.m. So please make sure that you are online on time on joining the room, and hopefully there will be different kind of knowledge and experience that we can get from this summer course.
Pak Gulam, what
Yes?
if we do a photo together? Yeah, we need to do it sometimes, right?
Okay.
Yeah, we can do it. So
let's have please open your camera.
Screen, everyone.
And I will count on 3 from here. Okay. Is it okay?
Yes, of course. Yes.
Okay. 1, 2, 3. Thank you for the first. And then we move to the second screen. 1, 2, 3. Okay.
Very nice. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you, and